Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris again, reporting for another Prehistoric Facts special episode, and in this one we're actually going to be talking about Tsintaosaurus. And Tsintaosaurus, meaning in Greek or Latin, means Tsintao, crested lizard. Fossils have been found in China, late Cretaceous, about 80 million years ago. It would have been 33 feet long, and it was probably weighed around 3 tons. And so this animal actually is a herbivore, and it's actually a duck-billed dinosaur, a hadrosaur. And so that would actually be the case, is that it actually chewed its plants, and it probably lived in large herds. And the main feature of this animal is it's kind of got this kind of like a unicorn-like crest on its head, and so kind of almost like a horn in a way, but it probably helped in terms of communication a little bit, but it probably was just a bony rod in a way from the skull. But it probably did have like pouches right near the nasal cavity to actually give a little bit more deeper sounds. And so hadrosaurs actually had these like very low frequency sounds to actually communicate in between the herd, and also possibly to ward off predators. Now, a lot of hadrosaurs just do not have that much of body armor. They don't have that much of defenses, and so that really kind of shows what kind of defenses could they actually have. And one is actually safety in numbers, so they would actually be living in a large herd. One weapon that they could actually use is actually another weapon in particular is actually the tail of the animal, and that tail could actually have been like a baseball bat, and it could whack any predator that it would actually come across. And you actually also see that the sound, and also possibly sound, was actually a weapon too, because if you actually think about it, if you actually keep rumbling a very low frequency sound called infrasound, it could actually just shake up the predator really, really good. And the predators around that time were pretty much tyrannosaurs, so you wouldn't mind actually seeing possibly like a Electrosaurus or otherwise Zoochentyrannus actually hunting down these animals. And so that would actually be the case of the tyrannosaurs would actually be around at that time. And there would have been another predator, a very different type of velociraptor, probably actually did live at that time, Tsintaosaurus, but there's no way to tell. But that type of fossil fauna of 80 million years ago is actually very hard to actually determine what kind of predators were actually around at that time. But even though we can actually indicate that there were possibly dromaeosaurs and tyrannosaurs living at that time. And it would have still been very kind of almost tropical in a way, because where Tsintaosaurus was actually found, it's kind of where a dry mountainous area, but it would actually have been a little bit more like kind of almost like a deciduous forest in a way, and it would actually be roaming around these forests and actually feeding on the tough vegetation to actually chew up to actually get the nutrients that it needs. And so that's why Tsintaosaurus is a hadrosaurus. It would have those hundreds of teeth that it would need to crush up the plant material in order for it to digest it a lot easier. And of course, with Tsintaosaurus, with the extinction, is that it couldn't adapt to the changes in the environment. So pretty much is that it got drier, and so that actually would have actually played in the part of how many forests were actually around at that time in China. And so that would actually be the case of that the forests were starting to disappear, and you actually started to get a little bit more of like a desert type of environment, and Tsintaosaurus could not adapt to that kind of environment. It needs to be near plant vegetation, a lot of vegetation, in order to actually flourish on its own, or to actually survive. Anyway, now that's it for now. Now, episodes 97, 98, and 99 will actually happen later this week and possibly in the weekend. So just keep an eye on those for a minute. Keep an eye on those for something this week. I'm actually going to upload those at the same time, so those are actually going to be it's going to be a lot of work for me, but even though I actually get that done as quickly as possible. But anywho, You can still send me suggestions for those types of episodes by emailing me at dinochrist71@gmail.com, or as go on the Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of Dino Chris, and you can just let me know what kind of prehistoric animals you want me to talk about. I mostly talk about vertebrates, so that would actually be for you guys to actually get some ideas there. And you can still send me questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life by emailing me at dinochrist71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions in the comment section on any Facebook post. Remember, keep your questions short to the point. You can also follow me on Twitter at CSGRILL. That's my Twitter page. I post protocol stuff on there. Also, take care of the people around you. Also, for younger people out there, make some listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. It's the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have good education. With a good education, you get a good job in the future. Alright, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys later this week.